Hi guys, so I recently bought a new printer, meaning my old printer wasn't needed. So I thought what a perfect thing to take apart, see what's inside and well, basically use the bits and pieces to make something. So the first thing was to work out just exactly how I get inside this. So basically it's a case of looking around, trying to find somewhere where there'll be screws. And quite often they're under these like sticky feet things. But obviously in this case, nope, no screws there. Because basically I don't want to like wreck the shell of this because that can be used to make things as well. So yeah, it's a bit difficult trying to find bits. There was just a case of basically seeing what bits came apart or came off and yeah, sort of work from there. So some bits obviously I did need a little helping hand using some pliers to yeah, gently ease the things out. Yeah, it's a bit tricky to begin with because I couldn't find any sort of screws that I could sort of undo to sort of have the whole thing just sort of come apart. It really is a case of a lot of this thing does seem to be just sort of clipped in. So yeah, it's worthwhile doing it nice and carefully because I want to keep everything. And obviously I didn't want to break this glass either. But yeah, there's lots of little bits and pieces already coming out. And so I can't wait to see what's actually inside a printer because I've never taken one apart. So yeah, it'd be cool to see what's actually in there. So obviously I've speeded up all this footage because it did actually take quite a while to sort of yeah, get into sort of the gubbins of this thing. Basically obviously yeah, every time I found a screw I was undoing them and say a lot of it was sort of clipped in. So yeah, bit of prizing, bit of pulling and there we go. Sort of we're in there. I say this thing, I must admit I wasn't too sure what I was expecting, but this thing certainly has a lot of bits and pieces that can be used to make things. So obviously in this video you'll see that I make obviously the sort of tank looking thing, but there are lots and lots of pieces left over. So I can certainly make more builds from well, from one printer, which is pretty awesome. So while I continue to take this apart, so I say a big shout out and a thank you to all my patrons for helping support the channel, as it does mean I can still keep going out and buying paints, bits and pieces to sort of, well, carry on doing some more builds basically. So cheers guys, thanks a lot for that. And if you want to become a patron, there is a link at the end of the video as well as one in the description. And basically obviously these guys as well will be helping me out. They get to see some behind the scenes footage and pictures of what I'm currently working on. So yeah, go and check that out guys. So once I did get everything apart and everything out, I had a good old tidy up and laid everything out on my desk. And basically this is what I ended up with. So it was obviously as well as the big sort of carcasses of the main body, I had all these lovely bits and pieces that came from, well, the inside. So yeah, plenty to use to make things with. And yeah, can't wait to sort of see what I can make from this. So there was a few bits that kind of stood out to me straight away. And basically this bit, I just thought there's got to be a cannon. So yeah, that's why I kind of went down the route of a tank. But cheers guys for leaving your comments on my my post on YouTube, suggesting what to make. There's certainly plenty of good ideas there. As I say, there are lots of bits left over. So I will be making something else using these bits, and I'm probably going to make something from one of your comments. Because yeah, there's plenty of good ideas. So yeah, there's a few bits and pieces I sort of initially saw that I thought would make the main sort of body of the tank. And yeah, then obviously it's just a case of gluing bits together. So I say this every time, but I really do love scratch building, as you never quite know what you're making is going to look like at the end. Because obviously it is a case of using all the bits and pieces that you have to hand and yeah, trying to figure out where they'd look good, what they could be, and then sort of gluing them on and hoping for the best basically. But yeah, so this is another one of those builds that I've thoroughly enjoyed making just because of the unpredictability and yeah, never knowing quite what you're going to be making and how it's going to look at the end. So it's as much as a surprise for me as it is for you guys. But there we go, so here's a sort of a basic sort of look. And I say this is the bit that kind of made me think I'm going to make a tank just from this, just because I think it's going to be a nice sort of a cannon. But also I'm going to use both ends, so it's going to be like a big cannon and its little brother cannon. Yeah, so using the old Dremel tool as well helps, because I could have a go at trying to cut this with me scalpel, but it would take a bit too long, or even trying to cut it with the clippers would be a bit difficult. So yeah, the good old Dremel comes in hand there. And yeah, again, I'm not going to do this as a tank with proper sort of tank treads. Obviously this is going to be more futuristic sort of looking. So this can be more of a sort of like a hover tank maybe. Who knows? So there was lots of springs inside the printer, so I wanted to get a couple of those in use, and I thought just having them on the back sort of the tank would look pretty cool, almost like they're sort of the barbed wire sort of looking thing, but obviously without the barbed wire. And yeah, so basically it's a case of cutting up lots of bits of plastic just to make them sort of fit, and obviously there was quite a lot of gaps that sort of like occurred in this this build. So yeah, just cutting up bits of plastic and using them to sort of fill in gaps and add a lot more sort of character and shape to the build basically. Obviously I've got my little Crazy Dave the driver here, and I thought he'd be a perfect person for this. So even though this tank isn't going to end up red, as obviously you can see in the images on the thumbnail, I really wanted to keep it sort of like green looking, just because I like the fact that tanks being green, as opposed to obviously making it an orc tank and obviously painting it red. So yeah, left it green. So yeah, I've done well building the main bit of it, but now I'm going to need some larger panels just to fill in bits and pieces. So yeah, so again, using the carcass, there's lots, again, texture, bits and pieces, nibbly knobbly bits, and yeah, some great bits to obviously have a go at cutting up. So I'm going to go making some sort of front cover bits, and yeah, just a case of cutting off or cutting out bits of this. It's such a shame I don't have any old VCRs about, because I'm sure they would have a ton of great bits and pieces in them as well. But obviously I've not had a VCR for, I don't know, 10 years or more. But yeah, I think anything electrical, anything big, would certainly have lots of bits and pieces in it. I've got an old keyboard I'm going to be cutting up soon, although I doubt that has too much in it. But obviously the keys would be pretty cool to use for something or other. So yes, I'm almost looking around my flat just to try and find things that I don't use that I could possibly dismantle and make things with. So there are quite a few gaps still to cover, but they're kind of like inside the main build of the tank. So I'm going to use this bit, which was part of the copier, just because obviously it's easy to cut up and I can slot it inside. As you can see, I was going to try and take off the backing sponge bit, but that didn't quite work too well, so I kind of gave up on that. But yeah, so as this cuts up nice and easy, I can obviously, well, once I've cut it to the right shape and size, slot it up inside, and then it covers all the gaps. But there are a few tiny, teeny gaps, so for that I'm going to use good old grout, just because obviously this is nice and easy to use, doesn't take long to dry, and well, it's cheap. So yeah, using that just to fill in any last little tiny gaps. So this is kind of like a 99.99% build from a printer, and obviously this small little bit's going to be some grout filling it in, and obviously as well as using the glue and some paint. But yeah, no, I'm really pleased with how this thing's sort of looking and how it's come out. It does have a sort of like fairly typical tank look to it, but also a bit of a sort of sci-fi futuristic look to it as well. And obviously once it's undercoated, yeah, it all sort of ties in really well. Plus there's so many like nooks, crannies, bits and pieces, shapes and bits that go with this that it just looks, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how it looks basically. I'm going with my usual sort of method of painting, and that is, this is going to be a rust bucket. So using a good old bit of brown and obviously like the old baking soda, just to obviously add texture. Yeah, I'm going to cake the thing in this. Rather than obviously painting it, if you sort of like dab it on, then you get some nice thick bits. And yeah, it really is going to have a lot of well, a lot of rust looking texture to it. I'd probably almost go a bit too OTT with this, but then I think, can you really go over the top using rust? Especially because, like I say, I do like rust buckety looking things, especially when either it's vehicles or sort of like industrial terrain. Just looks really good. Although at the moment it does look like it's fallen into well, a bucket of poop, but yeah, either way I think it looks good. And I must admit, it almost looks like it's something that would have been buried, or not buried, but sunken at the bottom of the sea and been there for like hundreds of years and really is rusting. So I'm actually thinking about, I might actually make a diorama of some sort of vehicle or something I make, painting it the same way I've painted this one, and then yeah, basically obviously pouring in the silicone resin and having it as like an underwater diorama of some old rust bucket, just because I think this does look like it's been at the bottom of the sea. So as I said earlier, I'm not going to go with red, even though it is going to be sort of driven by an orc. just because I prefer the look of the green, just so it sort of ties in more with a sort of the tank kind of look. But yeah, I am going to have a lot of the rust showing through. So as you can see, I'm not painting over the top or using the hairspray technique. I'm purely just going to be dabbing the green on with this sponge, just so it's sort of like an uneven kind of look. And yeah, I am going to have a lot of the rust still showing through. So yeah, I think it's going to look good. Just to break up the colours a little bit, I am going to paint the guns on this into a silver. And then obviously going over the top of that with a good old black wash, just to obviously sort of like darken it down and make it look more, well, more like it's been seen, used, and had a lot of action basically. As always, I put too much black wash on, so it's just a case of sort of dabbing it off with a sponge or a cloth or anything really to sort of get off the excess wash. And yeah, it does now look like, obviously there's a bit of a silver look there, but it does look like it's yeah, very used, worn, and well, it kind of fits in with the rest of the rust buckety sort of look basically. One last thing to add, and that's a bit of the old Vallejo wash, just because I like the way that this sort of drips down, and I say getting this over the actual the green painted bits just helps look like they're about to sort of go rusty as well. So yeah, a bit of that over the top, and then that's it complete. So get ready to see the final images, guys. Hope you enjoy them. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Don't forget to let me know what you thought of this build in the comments and what other stuff you might want to see me make. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, as I do produce videos every week. And yeah, guys, if you can hit that like button as well, that obviously all helps out promote my channel to other people. There's another video on the screen for you to click to see more of what I do. But if you want to see what I do when I'm not sitting at my desk making stuff, I've also got another channel where I get, well, out and about basically, visit sites and do things. And there's a video for that on the screen as well. Okay guys, that's it. Bye for now.